This is my best game in chess history, and it was done against an AI bot, which I will tell you at the end. For now, let's just look at the game. Okay, so here we have the king's pawn opening. A lot of people prefer the queen's pawn, but and the reason I'm doing this is because I'm trying to play a Vienna, channeling my inner Gotham chess, play the Vienna. So here the best move is to move the pawn, but I just don't want them to get a free pawn, so I instead move the knight up, which leads to them moving up their pawn first. And then I have a very easy move. Okay, move the bishop up and keep the knight and pawn pinned to that king. And then he moves his bishop to do the same thing. And then we both just castle to get out of that threat because, well, that's pretty obvious reason to figure out. And then I then complete the Vienna. And black immediately responds with taking with his knight. So here I actually commit a blunder because I take a free pawn instead of a free knight. And now that knight is just able to run rampant for the rest of the game. Luckily, he misses the free capture and instead moves his pawn up. And here I blunder with the bishop. That loses the knight, as well as also not really helping my... Oh, he missed that knight attack. And now comes a very brilliant move from me. I save the knight while also adding pressure. He can't take with his knight because then it's just a trade, but it's better for me because position. So, he instead plays the very crazy move. Wait for it. Wait for it. Do I ever move off this move? Ah, there we go. He moves his knight there. For reasons I can't explain. I mean, just take that knight. And it's check also. So, the AI sees that and he's like, oh, I gotta capture. I think I had a mess up there. Yeah, keep in mind I was also unloading our dishwasher by this point. And then here I just make the mistake of hanging a bishop. I was so confident at this point, I didn't even realize that hangs a bishop. Yep, that was a big mistake on my part. And then I moved the queen up. The computer sees this as a mistake because material fork. I don't see this as a mistake. I see this as me trying to get into the action. And then he just wildly moves that pawn. And then I move my bishop back because I'm like, yeah, no, I'm not getting my bishop captured. Keep in mind, at this point, I don't even see that rook is hanging. And then, like I said, he's just mindlessly moving pawns. Now, here I could at least see a purpose. He's putting a threat on my bishop. And then I apparently make this blunder. Eventually win a pawn. But luckily he makes that blunder. It's just losing a queen. I'll take a free queen. And you've also got to realize that it's really close to mate by this point. Luckily he finds a way to keep me from making a mate possible with my bishop. And he not only does that, he also makes my bishop unable to move anywhere. Now, the computer reads this as a mistake. I do not see this as a mistake. I see it as setting up an attack. And I didn't see the bishop was saying it at the time. But I just recapture and the attack is still on. And now here I find a very good move for my standards. I move the queen there, and now he has two choices. Either move his king to f7, or try to move his king to h8. I personally would go with f7, but he decides to go with h8. The reason I prefer f7 is because it gets my king out of a corner, you know. And then I move my pawn up. Now, the computer reads this as a mistake. Let me try to explain to you guys why I did this. I did this so that if the pawn captures, then I've just got a full frontal attack going, you know. And he moves his bishop there, and it says that that's a way to win a bishop. I don't really understand the logic behind it, but I accidentally simmed back in some moves, I'm pretty sure. Yep. And then I just capture a free pawn, and I also move that up. So that is a very bad miss, because it means my queen can keep bullying his king, and his king can't do anything about it. Granted, I see the point of that move, and now I move the queen over. This sees it as a mistake. I disagree. I see this as if the rook captures that pawn, I recapture the rook with check. And also, when we get to it, and he just captures there. So here I fulfill on my plan of a discover attack. Now, it reads this as a mistake, which I don't get. Like, sure, I do get that it leads you closer to mate, but I just see that as hanging a rook, you know? Like, it can be taken in two different ways there. So he moves the knight, and then I recapture with that pawn. And then I can't even explain the purpose of that rook move. But here I move my rook to the 7th rank. And then the computer makes a huge blunder. And as you can see at the top, it's now mate in 2. The reason that is such a blunder is because instead of capturing the pawn and then getting a rook, he hangs mate. And I find that critical queen move, making my pawn into a queen. And it's extremely genius because the computer only has 2 legal moves at this point. He can either move the bishop back to g8, which just leads to my queen capturing his knight, and that's mate. Or he can make the move that he makes, capturing with the rook. But just take the knight anyway, and it's mate. I cannot believe how well this game went. This is genuinely one of my best chess games I've ever played. I still can't believe I did it. That critical queen move. And let's not forget, if he would have just taken that pawn, then if my rook would have recaptured, then his bishop would have captured my rook. And I'm pretty sure that would put him a little bit higher on the material spectrum. But instead, he hangs mate in 2. This was against the 600 rated adaptive bot, Jimmy. So if you ever need a confidence boost in chess, after seeing the grandmasters make plays that you couldn't even think about, go ahead and play against this bot. I am maybe 400 ELO. I am not good, yet this bot allows me to find these types of moves that just make me proud of myself.